Today we are going to take up a very important part of the software design, and that is user interface design. And as a part of the design, we have deliberated a lot that what are the main design principles. Along with that, we also deliberated at length the architectural design, the detailed design. And at the same time, when we do reiterate even the relevance of SRS document, it's also one of the very peculiar requirements which is listed in the SRS document, that is your software design requirements. And as a part of our software design discussion, now we are forwarding our discussion onto our user interface design. You might be thinking the words user interface and then design. How user is important? Because I already have discussed and deliberated several times end user, the clients and the user, that is in true terms a king. And what the end user expects of, as per the requirements, we have to even put up the design and ultimately deliver to them. When we are talking about what are the functional requirements are really needed by the end user, but how those requirements need to be served, it would rest on your user interface design. There was a time people used to talk of that the machine interaction with our users and human beings, and you would be wondering to learn that it is not only the operating system which provides interface between the user and the machine, but more important, it is that interface that is provided to the user while they happen to work on their application. So today we are focusing on to all aspects of user interface design, which would make us learn that as to how our interface is important. You would have heard different names. CUI, that is called command user interface. You would have heard GUI, it is your graphical user interface. So it is not only confined to these designs, but I am telling you, in the time to come, we may also even have to have what? Even your sound interface, that which the system could be having your speak recognition. So what will be speaking out, even the machines would be able to even understand and to recognize, and it can accordingly respond. So how a interface design be characterized? What should be its main qualities of these kind of designs? What can be the fundamental principles of your interface design which can help and guide us? So these are all the issues which we are going to discuss and deliberate in our today's session. Now let's look at the main three popular even requirements of an interface. What it should be? Our interface, it should be easier to learn. It should be easier to understand. It should be easier to use. When we talk that is easy to learn, it means, does a user is required to memorize things? It means that is also the requirement we have to keep into consideration while formulating a design. If, for example, you are just working on to a payroll application, how you are computing the income tax, what are the different other kind of deductions, what exactly is the formula depending upon even their basics and the total emoluments. So if you are interacting with your application and you are passing on the information, then it should be the nature of your dialogue that you move with as a part of your application, which will keep you guiding simultaneously that what you need to do subsequently in the subsequent operations. So in case of our design, if you are making it a very simplified and a very learning experience, only then the things can be always served in a best possible manner. Whether it is your architectural design, it could be your detailed design, it could be your interface design. The beauty of any design lies in its simplicity. If you say how it should appear, would you require the user to cram and remember things, or would you require the user or client to focus on their requirements, and you automatically be attracted towards your system so that you can promptly perform the very right action? So this is the way, this is the analogy which will make you to forward through all its interaction and subsequent operations. So first, foremost important characteristics is what? That is your easy to learn. Now have a look on to the next, that is easy to use. Now what do you mean by easy to use? When you are performing the operation, the user should not be left in a uncertainty, or should not be left in a fix that what to do next, but rather things automatically should keep coming in its further course automatically. So it means it will be nothing but how you could anticipate it should serve the functionality, it should serve the assistance. So when we want that even the user, could it be a layman, or it could be the end user, it could be the operator, it could be the engineer, it could be anyone. For example, if you are talking about the end user who doesn't know anything about the technicalities of your design or of your application, but the end user is very much interested to get their task done through your system. When you do talk, even the software engineer, so it means how the software engineer would even converse with the system. It will be not the same mindset as the software engineer interacts with the system or the end user interacts with the system. So what it should? It should take into consideration as whether it is a end user or it could be another extreme, that is a technical expert, and keeping into consideration this wide perspective or the domain of the users which may happen to use the system, you need to use their expertise or their levels or their skills into the design consideration. That's why when we say it should be easy to use, it means anyone whosoever may happen to be interacting with the system should not face any kind of difficulty. And this is what it justifies. It is your second important quality that should be inherent into the design of the interface of your system. Third, another important aspect, and that is what? That is your easy to understand. Now, what exactly you mean by understandability of the interface? Because when you want to serve the functionality of your system, then you could be having a number of functionality aspects. So how do you organize the functionality on your interface design? It would be again a very difficult task. That maybe first the software you are happen to work on, first it is the psyche of the user, that whether am I working on so a difficult a software. Now the question is, may it be difficult, but it is also one of the beauties of even good interface designs, that you have to provide the interface in such a manner that it comes to be even totally easier for the user or the end, that's your user applicant. So this is another third important point that we should also keep into consideration while deciding even your interface design plan. Now beyond this, if you move on to that, what should be even the important qualities, have a look at what can be the even principles of even your interface design. These are the 6 principles of user interface design, and these include layout, content awareness, aesthetics, user experience, consistency, and minimization of efforts. First is layout. What exactly you mean by the layout? Layout is nothing but how your interface appears to the user. For example, you have the full screen of the system before the user. So are you arranging all the functionality in one corner, or have you beautifully classified, organized the functionality in a proper manner? This is nothing but it exactly would help deciding the layout of your interface design. So our good interface designs, they always have what? Even a classified layout. Classified layout means, if for example you are talking about the use of your MS Word or any other popular your package or even an ordinary package, what do we find? That is using the leftmost corner. Let's say in MS Word we do find the first leftmost corner. When we face the screen using your MS Word, we find file. Under file there are several options. What is it? Nothing but it is there to deliver the functionality for what? For document creation. After you create the document, you may also happen to print it. You may also happen to even set up it so that it could be exactly a printable format you are interested in. It could also be even what some of the page layouts or even setting provisions of the page that you could be interested in to set up. So these are organized in the left. At the same time, how to save the file. If you are interested to save the file as some other document, it could be what? Nothing but exporting or importing a file. It could also be even nothing but could be even getting the file from some other source. You could be opening an existing file. You could be creating a new file. So what do you find? That is within this very package, on the left of it, what we have? We have all the tasks which are unable to be performed, to be initiated by the user. When we move from our left as to on the right side, then we keep find, that is from your file, it could be even your view, it could be the tools, and so on and so forth, up to at last it could be the help. So what exactly it is? It is nothing but it is indicating the beauty of the design. As far as even if you are talking about how even the total functionality has been classified, that it indicates. So this is the first important characteristic of your user interface design. It indicates. Now let's look on to the second, and that is what? it is content awareness. While maintaining the design to be simpler, what is our main focus? It should remain on what? That even whatever has been put in terms of contents of your interface design, it should be as simple as possible. And the contents or the classification that you happen to organize in the form of your interface, it should be totally familiar to the user. And again, we should not forget, the user could be the end user, or it could be what? It could be an expert user. So we are maintaining even the larger domain of the people who happen to use that interface of the system. Mind you one thing, that when we are talking about our interface design, it is a very important component to make the computing systems popular among masses, among common men. Because with the use of your IT and your ongoing technological advancement, every sector, every segment, every walk of life, that is being strongly influenced and also being captured by the use of your computing technologies. So we should never forget that even a common man can't afford to understand the dynamics of your systems, and that's why it is highly demanded. That is even maybe something difficult your system is about to perform, but even this difficulty level should not be known to a common man, to the user. That's why we try to even keep our this abstraction levels within your system design. And this is how we do talk that it should be even also what? Even your content awareness. It is your also second, another major important, even your principle. Now have a look on to your third, and that indicates aesthetics. Now, what exactly we mean by aesthetics? For example, you could be looking at some design, and you find the design that is particularly affects your eyes, and you do not like. Sometimes you say it's your bright color. Sometimes you find it shabbily planned and shabbily organized screen. What is that? It's not a good interface design. Our good interface design is the one that also indicates even a aesthetic dimension of your design. And how will that be possible? That will be possible only with our early experience of the people, of the designers, of the engineers. And in this aspect, even our software engineers, they may also undergo some specialized training with an orientation of what of the human liking, because we should never forget, we are talking about even human beings and their competence, their capability. And at another point, we are talking about our computer system or computing systems. And third word comes your interaction. And that's why sometimes people do assume their interface design is nothing but what? Human computer interaction. Undoubtedly, we are talking about, that is how even humans' capabilities are kept into consideration while designing the system or while using the system mutually. So it's what mutual process. So we can't freeze the process, but it will be a continuous process. How healthy interface we are interested in designing. There was a time people used to make use of our MS-DOS operating system. But today, if you are talking about MS-DOS, when you are having so many other rich operating systems, including your Windows XP, it could be what Unixware, it could be Linux, it could be your OS2. So it means there will be a long list of operating systems. But even when we do look at our DOS, which at its own times was one of the most popular desk operating system, So it means our that DOS right now people do call it what? Dirty operating system. It's not dirty operating system, but why they call it dirty? Because it had not a good interface design. That was the main reason. People were supposed to cram so many different commands, and that's why the moment you fail to put up the command in the proper manner, it would immediately respond back, it's a bad command or file name. Though nothing bad in it, but this is what this is spirit of even good interface designs. So today's your even operating systems or for any applications. So it means when we do talk of our computing systems or your applications, it should be what? It should always has to have what? Even a good interface design. Now let's if we reiterate the same thing, that is aesthetics, that is beauty lies in the simplicity. That's why aesthetic is also quite important. Fourth important even principle of user interface design remains your user experience. What do you mean by user experience? Normally, when you start planning your software design, we also populate in the form of what? Requirements, that who ultimately are going to the person who would use the system. Or for example, if all the people who are to use the system, they are so trained, maybe it will be affecting your design course, because you need not to take the two extremes, a common man who doesn't know ABCD of your system and another expert who is well versed with the terminology and technology. So we should not keep an eye only on to what one type of user, but rather we should take into consideration even the larger domain of the people which are likely to use the system. So that's why even it is also one of the fourth most important even principles of your good interface design, and that is particularly the user experience. Next, fifth important characteristics comes up, that is the consistency. You might have noticed that when you are using some of the company's products for a long time, you are used to make use of the different options or those even particularly functionality. It's only because you have been using for a long time. At the same time, that user experience is helping the designer so that they can maintain and retain the same kind of design which would help the people or the end user. Let me quote a very interesting example. You certainly would have used Microsoft products heavily, whether it could be your Visual Studio.net, it could be your MS Office, it could be what? Visual Basic. So when you start noticing very closely, or could it be alone all the products packages under MS Office? It could be MS Word, it could be MS Excel, it could be MS PowerPoint, it could be MS Access, it could be MS Mail, or it could be many more. So when you start observing all these packages carefully, you will find a lot of similarity. And what's that? That it indicates that it is even the planning of the Microsoft to keep their designs consistent, to keep the functionality so classified, so managed, so that user is not required to cram and remember many things and what it would do, because this is also another important human factor that plays an important role in deciding this kind of design. So this is also another reason that it remains also one of the very important even principles of your interface design, that we need to be very consistent while formulating your interface design, that it should appear to be totally consistent. And the last, have a look at, and that is a minimize effort. What do you mean? That is, while looking at the system, working with the system, it should not be the feeling of the user at the end would come up with a feedback. It's not a good system, because our good interface designs always motivate a normal user. Maybe it is not that sturdy and very good for an expert, but our main focus remains on to what the larger section of the people, for whom interface design should be even very meaningful, should be consistent, should be aesthetically planned, and should be easy to understand, and should also be serving the very specific requirements. So friends, these are the very important principles of your interface design, which any designer, while designing the interface, should bear in mind. And now let's move on to another important aspect, and that is your human computer and interaction. You might be thinking that as to why we are interested in discussing these three components, that is human, computer and interaction. Have a look at this table. In this table, what do you find? It's your human. What are the humans good at? They are good at hard and fuzzy things. Now, what do you mean by this? Because computer system is not an intelligent machine. What the computer can do? Computer can perform any difficult task. But in case if we have to take some important and intelligent decision, can your computer can help you take the decision? Because the computer doesn't have its own intelligence. Nothing but at times it can strengthen the human decisioning. It can support, it can assist the human beings, but it can't substitute the human beings. But the idea is, while talking about our human computer interaction, unless or until we know what are the strengths and weaknesses of human beings, is it even possible even to think of any kind of design? Is not possible. What a human being is good at, because human being an intelligent person can take quicker decisions, can take intelligent decisions. Even at times when you find a very fuzzy situation, even in those situations you can arrive at the decision quickly. But your computer system may not be able to take the decisions accordingly. Whereas when we do look over the second component, that is your computer, what the computer is good at? Computer is good at simple and sharply defined things. When we say simple and sharply defined things, what do you mean? Simple and sharply defined things. If you look at the fundamental principle of a computer system, a computer works on what? On a sequential logic. It means it will be requiring a set of instructions which has been laid down to solve any problem. And how did you manage the problem to be solved? That you enumerated different steps, and within each of the steps you put up only those actions which your machine is capable of performing. And this is how we do. Whereas if you do compare human beings, is it also the human beings are working in the same manner? No. Because human being an intelligent machine, is not requiring to work on an algorithmic basis. Our human brain, it works in a non-algorithmic fashion, and this is the main fundamental difference between your computer system and human beings. One more thing, that there are certain other important areas including your fuzzy logic, probabilistic reasoning, intelligent systems. So these disciplines, these are also enriching even your these designs or computer systems even to act as more intelligent machines. But it will take a lot of time. But we should never forget, it is not likely to replace or substitute the human beings. Now let's ponder on to our third point, interaction. What do we mean by this interaction? That is, it lists the skills in somewhat complementary way. What do you mean? This interaction should be as simple as possible. It should be one of the main focus of our HCI design, human computer interface design. Across the globe, there is another thinking going on, that how we are integrating our human beings, your technologies, your processes. So three things are being tried, experimented, and have been put to integration. And these are what? These are your people, processes, and technology. So when we are embedding or integrating or even performing a fusion or convergence of these three things together, it is obvious to think and to plan that even our good interface designs, unless or until we understand even human beings well, it is not possible even to plan and to think of a good HCI design. Now let's move on to our further, that as to what really makes even this discipline a popular discipline. Have a look at what are the possible factors, that is your HCI factors. Have a look at even this table. These are the factors in your HCI, that is factors which play a very important role in your human computer interface. The first in this discussion is what is organizational. Now what is the organizational factors? It includes your job design, roles, policies. The next to this is the environmental. And what are these environmental factors? These do include noise, heating, lighting, ventilation. Similarly, if you move on to your health, it may lead to what? Stress, headaches. Similarly, how do you find the user to be involved? It could be the motivation, satisfaction, and experience. What about even the comfort? You certainly would like always it should be a sitting comfort. If you move on to the user interface, what kind of interface it may include? It could be your peripherals, that is your input output devices. It could be your color scheme. It could be your icons. It could be your dialogue. It could be your help assistant. Similarly, when we move to what even another important factor, that is a task. What kind of task it may perform? It could be your its complexity, it could be novelty, it could be allocation, it could be its repetitions, it could be monitoring. Similarly, when you do look, that there could also be certain constraints which may hinder the process of your human computer interface, and that is your constraints. So these constraints include costs, time scales, staff, equipment, and building. Similarly, there also it has to serve the functionality, and the functionality could be perceived again in different ways. It could appear to be in the form of the hardware, could be software, and could be interface. At the same time, it may also have another factor that may influence the productivity, and that is your output, it's your quality, it could be your cost, and it could be errors and the production time. So friends, what did we learn out of this is nothing but that there are several important factors which play a very important role in your human computer interaction design. Now, what are the very relevant disciplines? In order to come up with a good interface design, it is not only the 1 or 2 or 3 disciplines. There are several disciplines which have helped a lot to lead to a good interface design. And have a look at onto this diagram. Within this diagram, what do you find? If within this diagram, if you just notice, it could be your social sciences, it could be your cognitive sciences, it could be your health sciences, it could be what information management, it could be your media. So if you are just looking at this diagram, it is your social science, artificial intelligence, networking, information management, and media. So what are these are the roots of your HCI. It lies in your software engineering, computer graphics, that is your software human factors, cognitive science. So why we are even talking about these disciplines? Because it will be the intermingling of the different disciplines which have in true terms really helped to design the system in a proper way. And that's why whether it's your cognitive sciences, it's your software engineering, it could be computer graphics, simply observe one thing, that without your computer graphics, is it possible to serve the interface in the form of different icons or in a graphical manner? It is not possible. So that's why computer graphics subject has greatly helped even your interface design. Now beyond this point, let's look that what are the even other factors which can really help us in the interface design. And this interface design we are perceiving in the manner that where typical design errors are observed and noticed, and these include lack of consistency, that is too much memorization, no guidance, no text sensitivity, poor response, and unfriendly. These are nothing but these are the very common kind of your design errors that we normally come across. If we move on to, these are some of the design models that you certainly must be aware of. These are your system perception, it could be the user model, it could be a system image, or it could be design model. So there are 3 important golden rules for your good interfaces, and that is, number 1, we must try to place the user in control. We must reduce the user's memory load. We must make the interface consistent. So friends, if we look at this interface design, we should always try to come up with the design in such a manner that even it should not be burden on the user that they are required to memorize. Rather, it should also be the control of the user, that they should be confined to the screen operation, that it should be, that is your putting the user in control, not requiring to memorize. So these are few of the beauties of very good your interface designs. So friends, today as a part of your interface design, we have focused primarily onto the dynamics of engineering a good interface design, and it certainly would help even a common man and the end user and the user in meeting out our functionality requirements. Thank you.